Ugh,
Sorted?
sorted.
Billy's being a big old baby.
Oh, Billy.
He's being such a baby. Because
Boy.
Billa. Because I encouraged him to go out in the garden like other cats.
Oh, and
Now
he went, no, Mum.
now he's traumatized.
No. Oh, look at him. Right. I went to the shop this morning, got myself a biscuit.
Lovely.
All ready to record my episode.
Of
Breakfast.
course. Do you know what I was thinking? You know, on our last episode, that I don't normally listen to them again because obviously we research it, then we record it, then I edit it. So I don't normally listen to it again.
Sick of it.
I'm just so sick of it. But I was listening to it last night on my way home from work. And I was chuckling along to us, because I think we're hilarious. But I was listening to the beginning bit in particular where you're saying about eating the chicken sandwich. And
I've got no idea what I said. What was I saying about chicken sandwich?
It's amazing, isn't it? How quickly you forget what we've actually said. And you know, we mentioned the person on, I think, on TikTok or YouTube or something, and they said, oh, yawning during the episode. How unprofessional. And we were joking, how unprofessional. And I was listening and I thought, do you know what? We have actually got the try not to yawn challenge.
Yeah, because I yawn so much.
Yeah. And I thought they obviously haven't seen that to realise that we acknowledged that.
That was obviously their first episode, to think that we should be professional.
No chance, mate.
They don't know
chance.
us. They don't know us.
Just a couple of old dicks.
Yeah.
Chatting shit.
Yeah.
We like it. And other people like it as well.
Yeah. Honestly, right, so here it goes. Good segue into that, by the way.
Thank you. That's because I'm a professional. Know what I'm doing.
Yeah. In your face. So some shout outs. So first of all, new subscriber.
Whoop, whoop.
Shout out to Helen.
Hey, Helen.
Hey, Helen. Thanks. Thanks. And that's thanks with an F, by the way. That's a proper thanks.
That's a proper Essex thanks. Yeah. Thanks, love.
Proper thanks.
Oh, thanks, Helen.
Yeah, really, really appreciate the subscription. That means you get 2 additional episodes a month. So why wouldn't you subscribe, to be honest?
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And just thank you as well. Massive shout out to Arletta. She left us some really lovely feedback, some amazing comments. And to be honest, I mean, every episode we start by saying thank you to everybody for listening, but genuinely, thank you to everybody for listening and for all the love and support as well, because we've had so much love and support recently. And I think we've had 2 people that have come to us and said the one thing that they hate about our podcast is that they can't get involved in the discussion.
Yeah, I know.
When we're discussing things.
I totally get that as well, because I've listened to other podcasts and been like, oh my God, that's exactly what I thought. And I remember seeing this program on it where they said blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and there's times where they'll say, well, I couldn't find any evidence of that. And I'm thinking, I know where that is. I've seen that. So yeah.
I'll show you.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really cool that people want to get involved, and we've got our Blamely, and it's so lully. And I think maybe we should do some sort of chat or something for one of the Blams or something. We'll see if some of our Blamely want to get involved and record like a discussion together.
We could have a competition, couldn't we? And get one of our Blammers, pick one at random to be part of our episode. How about that?
That's a good idea. That is a good idea. And we'll do it on whatever episode they want. What biscuits you got?
Just digestives.
Oh.
Plain and simple.
I'm assuming multiple digestives.
Oh, yeah. The pack might be gone.
Yeah, that's likely.
Someone said to me once, what biscuit, if you could be any biscuit, what would you be? And I said, plain digestive. Because they're just a good all-rounder, and I feel like that sums me up.
I don't know what biscuit I'd be. I mean, my favourite biscuit is a peanut cookie.
Yeah, I can see you being a peanut cookie.
Yeah.
Yep. Go on then. What, to everybody, if you could be a biscuit, what biscuit would you be?
And a lot of our listeners are American, so they might not. Biscuits are different over there.
They might not even know what a plain digestive is.
That's true.
But I can't.
True.
It can't be any plainer than what I've said. It's so plain.
Yeah.
Just biscuit. A plain.
It's
not
like
even a cookie.
It's like a more savoury version of a hobnob, isn't it? Because they're like a little bit oaty, but the oats are kind of chopped up.
Yeah, I guess so.
Show
Google
them.
it.
Show them.
Oh.
People that are watching on our YouTube. That's what the pack looks like. Look at that enormous pack that is about to be devoured.
I'll show you again in 10 minutes. It won't be quite so enormous.
Screwed up wrapper.
Right, random blam, go.
My random blam is...
Oh, have you got one ready? I really want to catch you out.
My random blam pertains to the title of the episode, but not in the same meaning.
Oh.
I was looking up catfish.
Oh, yeah, cool.
The biggest catfish on record was 9'8".
What?
Nearly 10 foot. Mofo. Huge. And it's a Mekong giant catfish. And they're the biggest species of catfish.
They got them whisker things, didn't they?
I think all catfish have whiskers.
Oh, right. My random blam also pertains to the episode.
Whatever.
Well, you're not even going to listen, are you?
I'm going.
So, 27%, this is in the year of 2022, 27% of online participants of a dating website admitted that they had been catfished in a 1-year period.
Blimey.
So 1 in 3 people admitted to creating fake dating profiles, and 1 in 4 said that they used AI to enhance their photos. Why? Your face is your face. If you're ugly, you're ugly.
If you look like a catfish, you look like a catfish.
Like, when you eventually meet this person, what do you think is going to happen?
I know.
They're going to go, oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
dear.
all right.
You didn't mention you had a beard.
Miss? No. Well, I always think that, but then I think that people's reasoning behind that is that by the time they actually meet up and they see that they're not that person, that they will have kind of fallen in love with them anyway.
Yeah, but then the betrayal of being lied to that whole time, I think, no,
I mean, it wouldn't work for me.
No. It worked for me. Josie massively catfished me.
Fuck you.
Did you hear her?
I did.
I just joking.
We all did.
She's so beautiful. I really love her.
Yeah, she did not catfish. She didn't.
Right, random blams done.
Done.
Boy, have I got an episode for you.
Yes.
Why is that sentence? Boy, have I got, why not girl, have I got something for you?
Girl. Hey, girl. I don't know. I've just alienated all our American listeners. I can't help it.
I was in the tattoo shop yesterday getting a tattoo. I got 2 new tattoos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice. And the lady in there was just talking to all the other tattooists, and she kept changing her accent. And I was thinking, what is she doing? And I'm
catfishing you.
I would try and emulate the accents, but
please do.
All going to end up. No, I can't.
Please do. Please.
I haven't got an ear for accent.
Do it. Give the people what they want.
Oh, no, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, please. Just do one. Just do one.
Because I don't even know what she was saying. Anyways, she was talking in all these different accents, and I was like, what? what accent has she actually got. She just kept flitting between like northern. I mean, they were all British,
Right.
but between like Liverpool and Manchester and YA, they normally come out.
I think it's just like a greeting, isn't it? YA.
YA. Anyways, so today's episode I came across a little while ago, and I've been wanting to do it, but all other ones kept kind of taking precedent, and I thought, no, I'm doing this one.
Now is the time.
Now is the time. I'm going to commit to doing it. And then halfway through committing to do it, the MacBook died, and I was like, no.
Oh no.
There's nothing worse than like either recording and then it didn't record properly and we got to do it again, or halfway through writing a story and then you lose it and have to do it again. But luckily I managed to
you sorted
fix it. I did, yeah. Took the back off with a knife.
Yeah. Great big hunting knife.
Smashed it to pieces, but I fixed it. So here we go.
Good.
He's barking at that ghost.
Is he?
Hold on, let me go.
You heard it here first, people. Live on air.
He's barking at the ghost. No, there's a man outside. Oh, is there? Oh, right.
Oh.
False alarm, false alarm. Oh. Not a ghost, just a window cleaner.
Oh, well. Is it? Are you sure it's actually a real live living window cleaner? And
I'm not gonna run the risk of it not being a window cleaner. So
can you imagine if you went out there and you said to your neighbour, oh yeah, I thought my dog was barking at a ghost, but he was barking at Jim, the window cleaner, and she went, Jim's been dead 25 years.
That's so
Jim's
funny.
been dead these last 12 years. You're like, Diesel was like, I told you. Now give me a digestive.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we get cracking?
Yeah, let's get crack-a-lacking.
Okay. So the catfish killer.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it says. There's nothing else to it.
Brilliant.
It was May 2005. An 18-year-old tall, hot blonde logged into her usual online games forum, Pogo, and she was soon met with another player that had also just logged in, Marine Sniper. His profile said that he was a 46-year-old man, but he'd joined the forum for under 18s. So tall, hot blonde decided to send him a message. She was concerned that he would be seen as a predator. He was, a 46-year-old man hanging about in essentially a children's forum. So she sent him a private message in the forum and politely said to him that he had entered into the forum for children. And she received a message back shortly after saying he wasn't in the wrong forum, but that he was actually using his dad's profile. So he'd introduced himself as 18-year-old Tommy Montgomery. And tall, hot blonde introduced herself as 18-year-old Jessie Sheila. And as you can imagine, 18-year-old Tommy was interested to see if Jessie matched up to her screen name. So he typed her a message asking, "Are you really a tall, hot blonde?" So Jessie replied with a photo of herself. A tall, very attractive 18-year-old blonde in a bikini. She was athletic. She liked to play softball. She was on the basketball team. She had a very athletic build. She lived with her brother, her mum, and her dad, and said she was soon to graduate and go to prom. Jessie was also interested to see if Tommy matched up to his screen name. So he sent her a picture of himself in his Marine uniform. He told Jessie that he was due to go to sniper school for training. It was kind of like a boot camp. and he was due to leave in June, which is in a few months' time. And once he'd completed his training, he was then going to be deployed to Iraq. He described himself as a young, red-headed Harrison Ford with big, muscly shoulders, which was great because Jessie revealed that she loved a man with big, broad shoulders. And she actually said to him that she thought that he was much more handsome than Harrison Ford.
Get stuffed.
There is no one greater than Harrison Ford.
No one apart from Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is my husband, is greater than Harrison Ford.
Yes. But very quickly, and I mean very quickly, the pair began talking every night, like well into the night, with Jessie sending more photos of herself to Tommy. Tommy began to open up to Jessie. After the initial interaction, they began discussing deeper topics, and Tommy said that he didn't really have anyone else to talk to. He said that after his mum died, his mum had died of cancer when he was 12, and after that he'd kind of felt very alienated and felt he found it very difficult to connect with other people. And he actually admitted to Jessie that when he was 17, he had raped a cheerleader.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, just threw that out there casually. And he said that his life had become so hopeless, and that's when he decided to enlist in the Marines. This confession of the rape of a cheerleader in his school didn't deter Jessie. She was like proud of Tommy almost for changing his life, for being open about his mistakes and then correcting him and putting a foot forward in the right direction. And they would stay up until the early morning hours talking to each other and discussing all sorts of topics. And it wasn't long before they began professing their love for one another and engaging in cybersex. The pair were completely infatuated with each other. So
cybersex, like as in
just words on a screen,
right? Okay,
like
dirty talk online.
Yeah, real filthy stuff, man.
It's really scusties.
Oh,
real proper scusties.
Yeah, real scusties.
Blimey. Okay.
And yeah, they were just absolutely obsessed. It was an obsession. They were obsessed with each other. But Tommy was due to be sent away for his training soon, and Jessie was worried that they wouldn't be able to communicate as much. And Tommy said to her, don't worry, I'll still be able to chat to you, but not quite as often. And soon those few months came and went, and Tommy had completed his training and had still managed to keep up his online relationship with Jessie. But things were about to change because Tommy was due to be deployed to Iraq. And Jessie was heartbroken. So she'd been spending so much time with each other that now that he was going to Iraq, she was so worried that there was going to be this distance now. So she decided that she wanted to send Tommy some care packages while he was away. But Tommy said that he wasn't allowed to give out his location. So he gave her his dad's address, and his dad's name was Thomas Montgomery Sr. And he said that his dad would then forward it to him because his dad had been in the military. He was also a Marine, so he had contacts that he would find a way to be able to get in contact with his son. So the pair continued their intense online relationship through instant messaging on the Pogo site that they had met. And the Pogo site was just an online game site, Texas Hold'em, poker, these sorts of things. So they instant messaged through that. They also emailed each other. And also through Tommy's dad. So he was almost like a third party almost. So when Jessie couldn't get hold of Tommy, she would email Thomas. Jessie and Tommy's relationship was getting quite serious now. And Tommy told Jessie that he had actually gotten a tattoo to commemorate their love while he was out in Iraq. And he'd gotten a heart with Jessie's name inside. And it had the words forever and always on it. And that was their motto. And I believe it's also a Marine motto as well. But he'd related that to Jessie, forever and always. And Jessie responded by sending Tommy slideshows of photos of herself with varying love songs as background music. But all of those scantily clad photos that Jessie kept sending him to these, power slides that she'd been sending him, they had actually be the cause of their first major blowout.
Oh.
Because alone and not able to communicate every day, Tommy felt this distance, and he'd logged into the Pogo site one evening to chat to Jessie, and he had seen her in a room with some other players, some other like men players, and it made him incredibly jealous. So he began to accuse Jessie of cheating on him with other men online, and he accused her of sending her photos to all the other men on there to look at. But Jessie denied the allegations, and she was so upset by their argument that she decided to send Tommy like a homemade care package that she'd concocted, and obviously via his dad. So she sent it to the dad, and he sent it on. And it was to try and make amends, to try and say sorry, even though she felt like she'd done nothing wrong. And she sent him some of her underwear and like the friendship necklaces that have got like a heart, but it's broken and you get one half and the other one gets one half. So she sent him one of those, and it said Tommy and Jessie forever. So she had one half and he had the other, and it was a symbol of their love. And while this care package worked on calming Tommy down, it was actually Thomas Sr. that was now having an issue with Jessie. He actually messaged Jessie asking her to stay away from his son. Oh. He said that she was a distraction and not good for him. Jessie messaged him and said, why can't you let it go? Thomas had accepted that she wasn't cheating on him, so why can't Thomas Sr., his dad, also accept that she'd done nothing wrong? And he responded saying, because you will hurt him and he's an idiot and will believe your lying arse. Oh. But the pair continued to talk. They wasn't particularly bothered that the dad didn't want them talking. So after that, things carried on as normal. And the couple fell into a routine of chatting first thing in the morning, and then again around 3:30 in the afternoon, and then again of an evening well into the early hours of the morning. And when December came, Tommy wrote Jessie letters explaining how much she meant to him. In one of these letters, he wrote, honey, I love everything you gave me for Christmas, but the one thing I cherish the most is your love. You have made this my best Christmas ever. I will never forget Christmas 2005 because of you, sweetie. Baby, I'm so excited about running with you. I want you in my life now, tomorrow, forever. You mean everything to me, honey. Without you in my life, I am nothing. You give me a reason to keep going. Honey, I can never, ever repay you for everything you have done or given me, and that is why I love you so much, honey. My love is unconditional, and it will be until the day I die. So that just goes to show a level of, this infatuation that they had.
Yeah, it was proper in it.
He even surprised her at Christmas with a marriage proposal.
Oh.
To which she very happily accepted.
Oh.
She even started adopting his surname. And in the letters that they sent backwards and forwards to each other, Tommy referred to her as Jessica Blair Sheila Montgomery.
Oh, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Blimey.
Yeah, I'd drop a few of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
In February 2006, almost a year into the pair's relationship, Jessie received a surprise package in the mail. Inside the package was a handwritten note and what looked like a family photo. And the note read, Jessie, enclosed you will find a picture of my family. Let me introduce you to these people. The man in the centre is Tom, my husband since 1989. As you can see, Tom is not 18. He is 46 years old. She goes on to say that the two girls in the photo are their daughters and they do not have a son. The note was from Cindy Montgomery. And she goes on to say, from what I am pulling from your letters, You are much closer to my daughter's age than mine, let alone Tom's. And she said, are you over the age of 18? In this alone, he can be prosecuted as a child predator. She said that Jessie could be her own daughter, so she wanted to include some motherly advice in the letter. And she wrote, he is taking advantage of you. You need to be much more cautious of your safety. Let this go. You will only be hurt by a man who has mastered the art of manipulation and lies. Do not trust words on a computer.
Oh, shit.
So let me tell you about Thomas/Tommy Montgomery.
Right.
So Thomas is a 46-year-old man living with his wife, Cindy, and their 2 teenage daughters in Clarence, New York. His marriage wasn't perfect. He had problems with his sex life, and he admitted that he was impotent, so he was very unhappy. He worked at a company called Dynabraid, and it was a factory that churned out metal components. And it wasn't a job that he enjoyed, but it was one that he stayed in because it was decent money. He did want to start a career doing something, but he said that he didn't want to almost start over and have to take a pay cut. So he stayed. He was a Sunday school teacher, a vice president of the swim club where he regularly took his daughters. He had previously served in the Marines as a youth, and he kind of wore that as a badge of honor. He loved to tell people all about his time in the Marines, even though he never saw combat. But his time in the Marines had left him with an addiction, and he'd become an alcoholic. However, by this time, he was actually in recovery for his alcoholism. His neighbours and colleagues described him as a good guy, although they did kind of say that sometimes he could be a little bit awkward, but same babes.
Yeah.
So his unhappiness at home had led him to a desire to want something more. He wanted some sort of excitement in his life. So he started logging on to Pogo of an evening to play Texas Hold'em with his work buddies. It was a way for him to relax. He enjoyed talking to other people who he knew that he would never meet. He found it freeing and almost liberating to be able to share his problems with people who didn't know him, who would never know him, I guess. And he spoke about all of his problems, you know, the fact that he was a failing husband and whatever else he thought of himself.
I get that.
And when he received a message one evening from Tall Hot Blonde telling him that he'd logged into a games room for teenagers, he said he panicked. He knew that police often set up these like sting operations to catch paedophiles. So he decided to lie and say that he was 18. And from then on, things just spiraled. Jessie started sending him these very provocative photos, different bikini photos. And, you know, she wanted to know what Tommy looked like. So he described himself as this almost person that he wanted to be. He invented this character that he wanted to be, this tall, red-headed, muscular man with broad shoulders. And he started using sob stories, you know, about his mum dying and about raping a cheerleader. And from what I can find, that wasn't true. I mean, his mum had died, but he didn't rape a cheerleader. So for whatever reason, he felt that he would say that, even though it wasn't true. And obviously he included his Marine experiences from his actual Marine days. He said that he knew that he was never going to meet her, so he could be whoever he wanted. Jessie had given him a chance to be the person that he'd always dreamed of becoming. So when Jessie asked him for a photo of himself, he sent a photo of himself from 30 years ago in his Marine outfit. And because he had a family and a job, he couldn't be available 24/7 to talk to Jessie. So he created a cover story. He created a cover story that he was going away to boot camp and then being sent off to Iraq. And he even invented the character of Tommy's dad so that he could keep up this ruse of being away in the military, but also continue to chat to Jessie. He was kind of playing both roles there. And when messaging Jessie as Tommy's dad, he began to realise how deeply involved he was and that she was, because Jessie would send messages to Tommy's dad telling him how great his son was and how much in love she was with his son. So Tommy almost tried to end things. So while he was playing the role of his dad, he would send Jessie messages saying, I don't want you to see my son anymore. You're bad for him. And he didn't agree with the relationship. And he really actually tried to end it. But it wasn't, it wasn't enough. Jessie was, just bypassed him.
She was all in. Yeah.
She was all in. And Tommy couldn't help himself. He continued to chat to her anyways. He said that it absolutely was an addiction. When he wasn't talking to Jessie, he was counting down the hours until he could. And while he wasn't talking to Jessie, he was irritable. He was moody with his family. He was snappy. Yeah. Any chance, as soon as he got in, he would go straight to his computer. And they would stay up until 5 or 6 a.m. sometimes chatting. Their messages were just one after the other for hours and hours and hours. And 6 months into their relationship, he proposed to Jessie. He told Jessie that they would marry when he got back from Afghanistan. But he didn't think for 1 second about the reality of it, I guess.
Yeah, well, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. I was like, why would he do that if he's going to put himself on a time limit then?
Yeah. But he didn't even really consider her feelings and that she would be hurt by the fact that he was 46 and not 18. He said that she was a young girl and she would, move on quite quickly and find someone else. So it wouldn't really matter. In January 2006, which was around 8 or 9 months into their relationship, Thomas wrote himself a note. And it read, on January 2nd, 2006, Tom Montgomery, 46 years old, ceases to exist and is replaced by an 18-year-old battle-scarred Marine. Oh. All paperwork is set, i.e. birth certificate and DD card. He is strong, good-looking, battle-hardened. He has money in the bank, 2.5 million, and has a 9-inch penis.
Oh. In the bank?
In just somewhere. Gotta have to have it hidden somewhere.
Like a paperweight. Penis paperweight.
He goes on to say how this younger 18-year-old Tommy wouldn't be impotent, and he details his life together with Jessie. And then the next month, depending on what source you read, it was either his wife Cindy that found a care package sent by Jessie, or one of his daughters had come across his chat with Tall Hot Blonde while she was on the computer. Either way, in the February 2006, Thomas was outed. And his wife Cindy was devastated, and she confronted him, and she said that whatever problems they had, they should be working out together. And at first she was livid that he'd been speaking to an 18-year-old girl because of how young she was, and the fact that their daughters were almost a similar age. I think one was I said the highest one, but that's wrong. The oldest one was 14. So she was angry at him for kind of leading this teenage girl on.
Yeah.
But then she found out that he'd actually been lying to Jessie about his age. And that's when she decided to end her marriage with Thomas and to get in contact with Jessie. So she had her address from the care packages that she'd sent. And that's when she sent her that letter, included the family photo. Then when Jessie had opened that letter, she studied the photograph and she read Cindy's words. She was heartbroken.
I bet.
You can imagine she was absolutely devastated and disgusted. Yeah. She messaged Tommy and said that she felt disgusted that she'd been sexting a 46-year-old dad of 2 teenage girls. And she was incredibly angry. And she, asked him all the questions. Why? Why had you done that? What was you thinking?
Yeah.
They couldn't really give her any answers. But he did actually feel a huge weight had been lifted now that he didn't have to keep up this charade. He had been suffering really badly up until that point with anxiety because of what he'd been doing.
Yeah.
And Jessie and Tommy ended their online affair. But she said to Thomas, "Never let Tommy die." And then they both said their goodbyes. And it was then that Jessie decided to confide in another online persona. And this person's name or online name was Beefcake.
Oh, Beefcake!
The Beefcake! And she'd remembered this Scream name because of, obviously, Beefcake. And he'd been in other rooms that Tommy had been in. They were colleagues at work. So he was somebody that Tom would have played pogo with. So she decided to message him because actually she wanted to know the truth from someone other than Tommy. Because Tommy had lied to her. So she wanted to speak to this work colleague and just find out a bit more. And Beefcake was 22-year-old Brian Barrett. He worked at Diner Braid with Thomas, but they didn't really talk at work because of their age difference, but they did play these online games together. So Brian knew of Thomas, but not really. They weren't besties.
How old was Beefcake Brian?
22.
Okay.
Brian confirmed to Jessie that Thomas was, in fact, a 46-year-old married father of two. And he was so incredibly sorry for Jessie. He couldn't believe that Thomas would have done that. He was very compassionate to her. He was very consoling to her. And he offered her a listening ear when she, was pouring out her heart about, obviously, what he'd done to her. And history started to repeat itself. Jessie started speaking to Brian more, and she started sending him the same photos that she had once sent to Tommy. And they grew very close, very quick, and soon declared their love for one another.
Oh, goodness.
But that's when she decided to get back in contact with Tommy.
Oh.
And when I say quickly, it's probably about a week or two.
Oh, really?
It weren't it weren't like months at a time. It was very, very quick. So she hadn't spoken to Tommy for just a few weeks. And she was still so angry at him for what he'd done that she was now using her relationship with Brian to make him jealous and to get back at him.
Oh, no.
She told Tommy all about how they were sexting and using their webcams to be together and all this, disgusting stuff.
Disgusting.
Tom was obviously incredibly jealous. They discussed in depth how he was going to be the person to take her virginity, and she was now telling him that actually it was going to be Brian. So for whatever reason, Tom was quite passionate about wanting to take her virginity. So he was offended. I don't know the right word to describe it, but he was livid, basically, that now it was going to be someone else. Yeah. I don't understand how he thought he was going to be the first one, but he was obviously like triple his age. So Jessie and Brian began to mess with Tommy and go into different online pogo chat rooms and tell the other players about what he'd done. And they called him a pervert and a predator. And Tom was banned from pogo for a little while. He was like, when you get like a red flag against your name or something.
Yeah.
So he was banned for a little while. But Brian wanted to take it further. He was so angry at Thomas for what he'd done to Jessie. And now he'd grown so attached to Jessie. He was even more angry at Tom for what he'd done. So Jessie gave Brian her login to Pogo. And Brian was then able to go through their chat history and then to print off their chats as well.
Uh-oh.
He then took these printouts into Diner Braid where they both worked and just placed them around the building just for other colleagues' entertainment, And there were some very, very private messages. Like I say, they'd been sexting. So there was some very intimate conversations that they had had. So as you can imagine, this really, really pissed Tom off.
Yeah.
And he messaged Jessie and said, half the company thought he was a fucking loser and a predator. He said that parents no longer trusted him with their kids. And he said his life was so destroyed that he was now contemplating suicide. He messaged Jessie and said, "You can say goodbye forever to me and Tommy." Jessie begged for forgiveness. She didn't want Tommy to die. So when I'm now calling him Tommy, it's as the 18-year-old, and I'll say Thomas for the 46-year-old. But she didn't want Tommy to die. Mm-hmm. She missed speaking to Tommy. She told Thomas how she had really, truly fallen in love with the 18-year-old Marine. She said that she could never fall for Brian the way that she had fallen for Tommy. She was only flirting with Brian to get back at Thomas for what he had done to her. He'd broken her heart. So she wanted to exact revenge, basically. She wanted him to feel what she felt. And she promised Thomas that she would never speak to Brian again. And Thomas found himself being drawn back in to Jessie. He also missed Tommy. He missed that character. He missed being that person. And he said to Jessie that he had never stopped caring for her. So she asked if they could start over, be friends. And he asked why. Why do you want to be friends? And she replied, "You are my connection to Tommy, and I will love him until the day I die." And he replied, "I still feel Tommy in my heart." He says, "Can I tell you something that stays here?" And she replies, "Yes." He said that he had not stopped caring for her, and she replies, "Even with all that I have done?" He said, "I want to be friends and have fun like we used to." And Jessie says, "That sounds great, Tom." He then messages and says, "Hi, I'm Tom. I'm 47 years old and a former Marine." And she says, "Hi, I'm Jessie. I'm 18 and I've just graduated." The pair began talking again, and it was quickly made very clear to Jessie that Thomas wanted more than a friendship. He would switch from these self-pitying messages about his life and, how worthless he was and whatever else, to being very aggressive and very abusive whenever he thought that she was talking to other men. He frequently called her a whore and saying really awful things to her, really, really horrendous things. He was still incredibly jealous whenever he thought that Jessie was talking to Brian. He actually said to her he could deal with her talking to anyone but him. And he messaged her often and confided in Jessie how much he hated Brian. He actually said in one message, "For 10 cents, I would eliminate him." He said that Brian needed to pay in blood for what he had done. And when Jessie felt that that was maybe a little bit too much, she kind of messaged him. She was like, that's a bit much. He said, "Payback is a motherfucker, Jessie. I am the ultimate weapon. I am a Marine."
Oh, shit.
He even went so far as to say to Jessie, "Let's just say your piece of shit boyfriend came within a pussy hair of dying."
Oh, goodness.
Now, I'm not sure whose pussy hair, because I don't know.
There's been no talk of cats in this episode.
So yeah, he said, he actually, when Jessie kind of asked, when, what did he mean by that? Tom said that he had come close to shooting Brian after he had left those printouts of the old conversation around his work. And he said to Jessie, "If I had squeezed a little harder, he wouldn't be here." But Jessie wasn't dissuaded from this. She wasn't concerned. She didn't alert the police. She instead told Thomas that he didn't need to worry. She would never speak to Brian again. She said, "Don't worry, I won't betray you." Over the next few months, the pair continued to talk, and they eventually started sexting each other again, but with a twist, because Jessie wanted Thomas to pretend that he was Tommy while he was acting out what they would do to each other. And like I said before, their messages were filth. They were
proper scusties.
Proper scusties. He referred to his genital area as a snake. and her genital area as a fox. And I won't go any further into that.
Okay.
But their relationship was increasingly toxic.
Are snakes attracted to foxes then?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Meanwhile, Jessie was still continuing her relationship with Brian without Tommy's knowledge.
Oh, Jessie.
And they spoke about normal teenage things. You know, they were relatively similar in age. So Jessie would message him about, you know, her mum and being annoying and her brother being annoying and those sorts of things.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, whatever these young'uns talk about nowadays.
I'm pretty sure it's Justin Bieber.
Do you? Okay. And they also engaged in cybersex. And she started playing mind games with them both, you know, playing one against the other, lying to them both, telling Brian that she hated Tommy and that they should try and mess with him, but then telling Tommy that she loved him and wasn't speaking to Brian and that she could never love Brian the same way. In May of 2006, Tom found out that Jessie was speaking to not only Brian, but a lot of other men on their online game. And he pleaded with her to stop playing games with him. And he said, if she didn't want him in her life, then just to let him go. In one message, he wrote, "Do your panties get wet when you crush my feelings for you?" But he would then turn aggressive and abusive and calling her all sorts of names, threatening her. And he actually threatened to expose her home address. And I won't tell you in detail what he said, but he basically said that he wanted people to go to her home to assault her.
Right.
Nice. And and he also started to be abusive towards Brian. He wrote messages to Brian saying, "Go pop her cherry, she is a virgin, and then you can deal with all that shit. How about telling your cum-sucking, N-word loving little whore to stay the fuck out of my life? You wanted her, you got her. Just tell her to leave me the fuck alone." He used the N-word a few times, and
he's unraveling fast, isn't he?
Yeah.
Losing his grip on
you can
everything.
See it. You can see how it's escalating. He threatened to physically harm Jessie if she didn't leave him alone. And Jessie was so frightened that she told Tom that she was going to get her mum involved, Mary. And Mary came online and told Tom to leave her daughter alone. And he agreed. And he said to Mary that she also needed to keep her daughter away from him also. And that worked. The pair stopped talking to each other for a week, 2 weeks, something like that.
I was just getting ready to go, good, I think that's for the best.
No. So meanwhile, Jessie had been speaking to Brian. But then Brian went on some sort of vacation. So in his absence, Jessie turned to Tom again.
Oh, for God's sake, Jessie.
And he saw this message pop up and he replied and he said, "Your mum told you to stop talking to me. Your mum said to you explicitly, do not talk to me." And she replied, "She'll never know." He says that they can't believe they're back talking to each other. He can't believe that after how viciously they were fighting, that they were able to be civil to each other again. He told Jessie that she just loved attention. And she replies, "Yes, give me some more." He agreed to continue talking to her, but said, "If I find out any lies were told to me, you will lose something very close to you." The cycle continued. Tom would get incredibly aggressive and jealous anytime that he thought she was talking to Brian. Many times he threatened to delete his account, but Jessie would always plead with him not to. It was a cycle of mind games followed by aggressive, threatening behaviour and then this sexual tension. But during all of this, Jessie started to talk to Brian over MySpace. So she moved away from Pogo so that Tom wouldn't see they were speaking. And she again was playing mind games with the both of them. This continued until early September, when Tom found Brian was listed as a friend on her MySpace page, and he went mad and telling Jessie that he wasn't a yo-yo that she could just keep playing with. Jessie finally said, enough's enough. She told Thomas that she was deleting her account and that she would never speak to him again. And she messaged and said, "I'm asking you to love me enough to let me go." And Tom sent her a barrage of horrible messages, real horrible things. He said, "You're a whore and that's all you'll ever be. You will pay now, bitch. You better be very afraid now. I told you what would happen if you and Brian got together." And Jessie messages Brian and she tells him that she is really pissed Tom off and that Tom had threatened Brian. And he replies and says, "He's tried to hit me with his car in the parking lot." And he asks Jessie if he should tell his boss at work about what's happening. And she just responds and she says that she's actually very afraid of him now, very afraid of Tom. And she sends a last message to Brian and says, "Make sure he stays away from your truck." 2 days later, on Friday, September 15th, Jessie and Brian had planned that he would drive down to finally meet her that evening. He finished work for the evening and clocked out at 10:16 p.m. He walked to his truck parked at the back of the Diner Braid car park and climbed into the driver's seat. But that's as far as he got. Out of the darkness, 3 gunshots pierced through the driver's side window, hitting Brian in the neck and upper arm. And he slumped over the steering wheel, dead, before he even had a chance to check his messages and see that Jessie had cancelled their plans to meet that weekend. Because his family thought that he was away for the weekend and no one worked at the factory Saturdays and Sundays, his body wasn't discovered until 2 days later on Monday morning.
No, that's awful.
Yeah. A colleague noticed that his parked truck, like from a distance, he could see that the driver's side window was partially shattered and there were 3 very distinct bullet holes in there. So he immediately called the police. And when the police arrived, they noticed that Brian's passenger side rear wheel had been slashed. So he was essentially a sitting duck. They also found a gun clip on the ground right by the rear wheel, and it was covered in what appeared to be dog hair. And there was also a peach pit nearby. They found no shell casings or any other evidence. But when they started interviewing Brian's colleagues, there was one person missing. 47-year-old Thomas Montgomery. His colleagues told police all about this love triangle that they were all involved in. They also told police that Thomas had mentioned that if he was ever going to kill someone, he would do it sniper style with an M1A1 rifle. When police tried to reach out to Thomas, they couldn't find him. So they believed that he could have actually been on his way to West Virginia, where Jessie lived, and that Jessie was now in danger. So they needed to track her down. And it didn't take long for police to actually find, through her MySpace page, who she was and her address. At around 6 a.m, police officers arrived at Jessie's home in West Virginia. A woman answered the door. Officers asked if she was Jessie Montgomery, and she says, "No, she is Mary. Jessie is her daughter." So police ask if she is home, but Mary says no. She lives in Concord, where she's currently studying. And police ask if she's been home recently, and Mary says no. They ask Mary if there's any way that she could get hold of Jessie, as the police believe that she is in danger. And Mary says no. She doesn't have a phone number for her. She doesn't have a way of contacting her. So police continue to question Mary. Why don't you have her number? You must be able to provide us. Your daughter is in danger. You must be able to provide us with information on how to contact her.
Yeah.
As the police question her more, tears start appearing in her eyes, and she breaks down crying, and she says, "I'm Jessie. I've been using my daughter's name on the internet.
What?
Mary Sheila was a short, plump 45-year-old woman, and she'd been using her daughter's name and photos to seduce men on the internet. Photos of her daughter in a bikini, photos of her daughter half naked swimming.
Well, she was a catfish as well.
Yes.
What the?
So, some photos that had been knowingly taken, some photos that had been sneakily taken of her daughter.
Oh, that's not cool.
Mary had secretly recorded videos up her daughter's skirt and then sent them to men online.
Shut up.
She would then send
As if
her
you'd do
own.
that.
She then sent her own daughter's underwear to men online.
My God.
Police asked Mary to fill out a police report, and in the report, Mary said that Thomas had contacted her that morning saying, "Your boyfriend was very easy to take care of. No 18-year-old is going to best me." And police managed eventually to track down Thomas, and they questioned him about Brian's death, but he refused to admit they had anything to do with it. He told police that he'd been home when the murder had happened and to ask his wife or ex-wife, Cindy, to corroborate his story. However, Cindy was absolutely not going to cover for him. She told police that he was not home at the time of the murder and that he had arrived much later home than what he had told police. They confiscated his computer and found thousands of instant messages that he had saved of their conversations. Police managed to match his DNA to the DNA found on the peach pit right by the Brian's truck. They also matched the hair found on the gun clip left at the scene to their family dog. The bullets found in Brian's body matched that of the same rifle that Tom had said that he would use to kill someone, the M1A1. They also found a gun cabinet at his home, but there was an empty slot where a gun used to live. They never found the gun that was missing, but what they did find while flicking through a family album was a photo that Thomas had taken of Cindy just sitting on a chair. But in the background, you can see the gun cabinet, and you can see inside. They managed to zoom in and had an expert look at the guns, and it was an M1A1 rifle that was inside the cabinet. So Tom was arrested for the murder of Brian Barrett, and while in custody, they handed him a photograph of a short, stocky woman with short, curly hair in a big, baggy hoodie. And they ask him if he's ever seen this woman before. And he says, no. And it was at this point that police informed him that this is who he'd been speaking to the entire 18 months of this fabricated relationship with Jesse. And this is the person who he'd killed Brian Barrett over. And the blood drained from his face. To say that he was shocked was an understatement. But still, Tom denied that he had anything to do with Brian's murder. While he was detained in custody, he completely stopped eating. Very quickly, his weight plummeted and he lost over 100 pounds. And he found a bottle of sleeping pills in someone's cell, and he tried to use them to commit suicide, but his attempt failed. He phoned his daughters from prison because despite what he'd done and what he'd been through, he did love his girls. He absolutely was as best a father to them as he could be. He didn't want to put them through the horror of a trial, so he decided to take a plea deal. It was a lesser charge of first-degree manslaughter, but he was still sentenced to 20 years in prison. So what charges did Mary get? I hear you ask.
Yeah.
Mary was never charged with any offence.
Nothing at all.
What she'd done was horrific and contributed to the death of a person, but it was not a crime. Catfishing online is not a crime. And she never actually participated in the murder. She never told Tom to do it. She never egged him on to do it. She certainly made him angry enough by what she was doing and the games that she was playing. but ultimately it was Tom that pulled the trigger. I can't believe that she didn't get any.
Yeah,
You know,
nothing at all.
That they couldn't find any sort of anything to pin on her, because actually she'd taken a video up someone's skirt, and that's voyeurism.
Yeah.
So I believe that she should have been charged with something like that, or perhaps endangering the life of someone. But she was never charged with anything. Brian's parents speak out and say how completely nonsensical their son's murder was.
Yeah.
And how
agreed.
if just one person had spoken out about what was going on, then this never would have happened. You know, if Brian had mentioned to his parents something, or if any of their work colleagues had told Brian's parents what was going on, and they actually are petitioning for a law to be passed to protect people against online catfishing. Had it been a punishable offence, then Mary may never have even considered posing as her daughter online.
Yeah.
Mary has spoken very rarely about her involvement in Brian's death. She's done a few interviews, but not really much, and she's never really said much about it. But what she has done is she's actually kind of posed herself as more of a hero than anything. She said that she went into these chat rooms to speak with older men so that they would stay away from real life teenage girls.
Oh, whatever.
So in
I don't
essence,
believe that.
she was trying to protect them. Well,
Bullshit.
actually, she thought that he was 18.
Yeah.
So she wasn't speaking to an older man. But that was her viewpoint. I'm
People
trying to protect.
They need to be aware of catfish.
Yeah.
And they need to be aware that if they are catfishing,
Someone
that
else
other person could be as well.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
don't plan your whole future and your whole life around someone that you don't really know.
You've
don't,
never met.
especially
Never met.
with like AI, all these photo editors and apps that you can put on there that you think, I know that person, and they don't look like that.
Yeah.
So
Tom actually said that he truly believed that she was an 18-year-old girl. And the reason that he truly believed that she was an 18-year-old girl was because she believed that while he was out in Iraq, he had access to a computer and was the internet and was still able to talk to her. And he said, had she been an adult, they would have probably questioned that.
Yeah.
So he believed that she was an 18-year-old dumb kid that believed his lies, is what he was saying. But Mary actually continued to lie to her own family about her involvement in Brian's death. Brilliant. And she never told them the entire truth about what she'd done. Never told her daughter that she'd used her, all of her pictures and sent them. She never told her husband about the conversations that she was having with the two men. She actually told her husband that they were having conversations about the weather.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Her daughter only found out because she actually Googled what was going on. She Googled her mother's name, and she eventually read the truth online, and that her mother had been using her photos, half-naked photos, to send, and her daughter's like her actual underwear and things. She says that her mum has never offered an apology to her, and she's never offered an explanation. So she has since cut off all communication with her mother and refuses to ever speak to her again. And there is absolutely nothing stopping Mary from doing this again to other people. And that is shocking.
She could be doing it right now.
She could be doing it right now. Yep. Her son lives with her, and her son actually said that she spends a lot of time online.
Brilliant.
She literally could have spoke to the police and said, yeah, that person that I was speaking to has died now because, of my involvement in what I'm doing. See you later. I'm going home and I'm going to do it again to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing stopping that from happening, and that's scary.
It is scary. It is really scary, because people like, like Tom, they are vulnerable people. I know obviously he killed Brian.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that makes it okay, but he obviously was in that headspace. Like when you were talking about him saying that, you know, he was young, he was muscly, big broad shoulders, you know, he was in the military, you know, he was young, he had this ginormous paperweight penis, and, you know, and all this. That was his escape.
Yeah.
And I get that. I get
it was
that
a
people have
fantasy.
that need to, to have a fantasy and escape the, you know, the day-to-day shit, you know, paying bills, going to work, you know, doing this, doing that, tidying the house, going out, cutting the grass, and it gets mundane. And I think if you can just put yourself somewhere else for a minute, which is why people watch like movies and you know, play video games and things like that, because it gives you
It's escapism.
Yeah, escapism, exactly. It enables you to feel like this different person, your ideal person, how you would want to be and how you would want to feel. And I get that. And I think Mary kind of played on that. I mean, he was playing a dangerous game, obviously, as well.
And it's so sad that it was the innocent victim that got harmed in this, because actually Tom was wrong, Mary was wrong, Brian was exactly who he said he was, and he was he got wrapped up in this fantasy of that those two were living out.
And he was the one that ended up getting killed over it.
It's horrendous. So be careful online, people.
Be careful, be aware that people aren't who they say they are. They showed, I think people showed the best version, well, apart from us, people show the best version of themselves. Not the best version, but what they want people to see and what they want people to think about them. And it's not always the case.
And
it can be dangerous. Be careful. People.
Be careful. Stay safe.
Stay safe. That was wicked.
Well, there you go then.
I mean, obviously, I knew one of them was catfish. I didn't realise that both of them were. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I have no trust for anyone now.
Yeah, I know. Who are you? I don't even trust you.
Believe me, if my face was AI, it wouldn't look like this.
I wouldn't pick this one.
I wouldn't choose this. I'd be like a unicorn.
All right, well, I will see you next week.
See you next week. Have a good week.
And
Poppy
you, bye.
and everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, can you just zone in on the fart that she did and put that in the podcast?
Oh.